Why don't you own up to it? Which you call some of the members of the Supreme Court evil. Now, which ones do you think are evil?
I would have to refresh my recollection. I've been very critical of some members of the Supreme Court.
You made that statement, aren't you?
I'm
You're an officer
Senator, it doesn't sound like something that I would say.
You know what I'm embarrassed at? That you're teaching our kids.
I don't refer to Supreme Court justices as evil in
the
classroom,
on
sir.
Your podcast, April 22nd, 2024.
Okay, well,
big as Dallas. And you're an officer of the court, and you're here advising us to be respectful to federal judges, and you say they're evil members of the United States Supreme Court? Gag me with a spoon. You're part of what's the problem in all of this.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Congress Lens. I'm Audrey. If that clip didn't grab your attention, I don't know what will. Senator John Kennedy did not hold back. And honestly, I respect that. When a law professor who helps shape future lawyers refers to members of the United States Supreme Court as evil, that is not just dramatic language. That is a serious accusation. If you are going to say something like that publicly, you should be ready to explain it publicly. What stood out to me right away was how direct Senator Kennedy was. He did not dance around the issue. He did not soften it. He simply asked, "Did you say it? And if you did, who were you talking about?" That is accountability. Tonight we are breaking down why this moment matters. This was not just about one heated exchange. It was about consistency, credibility, and respect for the judiciary. If you believe in holding everyone accountable, elected officials, professors, and judges alike, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to Congress Lens, and drop a comment below telling me whether you think Senator Kennedy went too far or not far enough. Let's get into it.
Would any of you advise a client to defy a federal court order?
No.
None of you would? How about you, Professor?
I mean, under most circumstances, we follow the government and private parties follow court orders. I suppose I would not rule out ever the possibility that in a sufficiently egregious order, there should be some consideration of whether there's a way.
So in some cases,
I think it's a qualified answer, yes.
In some cases you would.
In an extremely narrow band of cases, I think it would be considered, yes.
Okay. Do any of you think that nationwide or universal injunctions are not being abused?
I'm not sure if I may, Senator, I'm not sure what the time horizon of the question is. I don't think that there could be good faith disagreements about the correctness of some of them, but I have not seen in the last 4 months abuse. No.
I've read your stuff, and I've read your writings, and I don't want to get bogged down with this, but I have little respect for your opinion because I've read your stuff. When someone is in the White House that you agree with and someone gets a universal injunction against him, you don't like universal injunctions. You called them judges acting like they're politicians in robes and judges looking like crass political actors. But now that President Trump's in the White House, who you dislike, you think that universal injunctions taste like pumpkin pie. So I have to discount what you say because I think you act on your political beliefs. And I worry that that's what you're teaching your kids. So I'll leave you out of that. Do you think nationwide injunctions are being abused?
Certainly, Senator. I think that is.
They're being abused by both sides, aren't they?
Yes, Senator.
Both Republicans and Democrats are forum shopping, aren't they?
Certainly.
Professor, do you disagree with that?
I think both sides are abusing them. I agree.
Okay. Both sides.
Yeah.
There are no clean hands here. Now, your suggestion is that when a federal judge issues a nationwide injunction, there should be an automatic stay and an expedited right of appeal. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Do you disagree with that?
I haven't given enough thought to have a position on it, Senator.
I suspect, Professor, your answer will be it depends on who's president.
No, Senator.
Let me ask you about this. What if we had a rule? I was reading an article the other day. I'm not suggesting it. I just want your opinions. That said, if a president, any president, issues an executive order, let's say, that clearly violates settled Supreme Court precedent, that a federal judge can't issue a nationwide injunction. For example, if a president issued an order that said no one in America has right to counsel any longer, including but not limited to, in a felony case, having the government pay for your lawyer if you can't afford it. That clearly violates settled Gideon v. Wainwright. In that case, a judge has no authority or does have authority to issue a nationwide injunction. But in a case where the law is unclear, a judge should refrain from that. Now, obviously, we'd have to trust our judges, but we're supposed to be able to trust them anyway. What do you think about that?
I don't agree with that, Senator, because I think universal injunctions transgress the limitations under Article 3, even if the underlying merits are clear.
I happen to agree with you. I don't think there's any basis under Article 3, under Supreme Court precedent, under the English common law for nationwide injunctions. I think politicians have helped judges, and many judges are politicians, to just make it up. And many of them are like Professor Shaw here. If they like the president, they're against nationwide injunctions. If they don't like the president, they're for him. Professor, let me ask you this while I have you. On April 22nd, 2024, you said there are some members of the Supreme Court that are evil. Which justices were you talking about?
I'll take it your word, Senator. I don't recall using that word, but
All right, here's what you said. You were talking about the majority opinion in Muldrow v. City of St. Louis. You said, quote, Justice Kagan, will she be able to control the opinion's future distortion by her evil colleagues? Probably not, end quote. Who were you talking about?
sir, I'm very skeptical. If it's a transcription, it was probably a transcription error. I do not think I said.
No, you said it. Why don't you own up to it? Which you call some of the members of the Supreme Court evil. Now, which ones do you think are evil?
I would have to refresh my recollection. I've been very critical
You're
of some
embarrassed
members of the
that
Supreme
you made
Court.
that statement, aren't you?
I'm
You're an
telling
officer
Senator, it
of the
doesn't sound
court.
like something that
You know
I
what
would
I'm
say.
embarrassed at? That you're teaching our kids.
I don't refer to Supreme Court justices as evil
You did,
in
here
the classroom,
on
sir.
your podcast, April 22nd, 2024.
Okay, well,
Big as Dallas. And you're an officer of the court, and you're here advising us to be respectful to federal judges, and you say they're evil members of the United States Supreme Court? Gag me with a spoon. You're part of what's the problem in all of this.
Thank you, Senator Kennedy. Senator Durbin.
So I'm going to give the panel members an opportunity to.
After watching the entire exchange, here is my honest take. Senator John Kennedy was not going nuclear. Senator John Kennedy was doing oversight. The hearing started with a simple but important question. Would any of the professors advise a client to defy a federal court order? Most of them said no. One professor gave a very narrow exception, saying maybe in an extremely limited case. That might sound thoughtful and nuanced in a classroom, but we are talking about defying federal court orders. That is not a small thing. That is about the stability of the legal system. Senator Kennedy pressed that point because once you start carving out exceptions, even narrow ones, you are stepping into dangerous territory. Then the conversation moved to nationwide injunctions. Several witnesses admitted that both Republicans and Democrats have abused nationwide injunctions. Both sides engage in forum shopping. As one professor admitted, there are no clean hands here. That is important. But Senator Kennedy pointed out what he clearly sees as selective outrage. When one president is in office, some critics oppose universal injunctions. When another president is in office, they defend them. His frustration was not about disagreement. It was about inconsistency. Legal principles should not change depending on who sits in the White House. Then came the moment that really escalated things. Senator Kennedy confronted the professor over a previous comment where the professor appeared to refer to some Supreme Court justices as evil, in remarks connected to Justice Elena Kagan and a court opinion. That is strong language. You can disagree with a Supreme Court ruling. You can criticize the reasoning. You can argue that a decision is wrong. But calling justices evil crosses into something deeper. That suggests moral corruption, not legal disagreement. What really stood out to me was the response. When confronted, the professor did not clearly own the comment and did not clearly deny it either. There was hesitation. There was uncertainty. There was talk of a possible transcription error. If you are an officer of the court and a law professor, clarity matters. Senator Kennedy's reaction was sharp, yes. But it reflected something bigger. Public trust in institutions is already fragile. When influential academics use charged language about Supreme Court justices while also calling for respect toward the judiciary, it creates a contradiction. Some people will say Senator Kennedy was too aggressive. Maybe. But hearings like this are not law school seminars. They are oversight. And oversight sometimes means asking uncomfortable questions and demanding direct answers. This was not about protecting one justice or one political party. It was about drawing a line and saying that if we want respect for the courts, that standard has to apply across the board. Here is my bottom line. We can debate court decisions all day. That is healthy. But if we start labeling justices as villains every time we dislike a ruling, we weaken the very institution we depend on. Senator John Kennedy forced that conversation. Whether you agreed with his tone or not, he made sure the issue was addressed. Let me know what you think. Was Senator Kennedy right to press that hard, or did he cross the line? This is Congress Lens. I'm Audrey. I'll see you in the next one.